Hello, this is The Point of View. It's your favorite current affairs show on television. It's on Citi TV every Monday and Wednesday. My name is Bernard Avle. Here on The Point of View, we get the right guest. We ask them the right or relevant questions, and you come up with some real insights. If you want to contribute to the show, you can send us your views via WhatsApp message. The number is on the screen for those who are watching. And if you're watching on Facebook, there's a stream where we are conversing. Tonight, we're talking economy. Where is the money? People are saying the Christmas is dry. We're going to unravel. We're going to look for the money for you. I have two very interesting people who are going to help us find money before Christmas, because it's a couple of weeks to that celebration, and many people don't seem to know where to find money. Stay with us. So with 3 weeks or two to go to Christmas, some people say we are in a liquidity crunch. Some say it's just a temporary blip, that the foundations have been laid for prosperity. The budget was read less than 10 days ago, and many people still seem to think that there's something wrong with the economy. Tonight, I want to discuss this with people who are not politicians. I have a financial analyst, a journalist who's an economist, Toma, Imihere, to help me decipher what's going on with the economy. Toma, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bernard.
I also have a man who deals in money, Joe Jackson. He's with Dealers, one of the largest finance houses in the country. He's going to help us understand where all the growth is going and why we don't seem to have money in our pockets. Joe, welcome to the show.
Good to be here, and hello to all your viewers and listeners.
Brilliant. So before we come in here to talk about the issues, we went to the market. We spoke to market women. What's going on? There's a lot of traffic in town. They've taken over the pavements. Are people buying? We'll be showing you what the people are saying on the streets. But we want to hear from you. So if you're watching, tell us how your economy is. How do you feel? Do you have money in your pocket? Have the contractors started buying things so that you are benefiting from the contractor economy? These are some of the questions we'll be answering. So later on, I'll show you what the market women of Ghana are saying. Let me start with Joe. Joe, so you deal in money. You buy money and you sell it.
Yes.
So what's going on? Where are we? Where are we in the economy? What's your evaluation of what appears to be a lack of money in the system? What is going on?
Oh, but there's no money. It's obvious that the ground is hard, and that it is borne out by both anecdotal evidence, and of course, you heard a couple of days ago, you heard about the Afro barometer report that says life is hard. But life is hard. Life is hard when the guy who sells kebab down my road comes to me and says, "Boss, aren't you going to have any party?" I say, but Christmas time you should be busy selling kebab. He says, "They are not buying, no."
They are not buying.
They are not buying, boss. The people who used to buy 3 bottles of beer, now they buy 1. Those who used to buy 2 kebab, now they buy 1 every other week. It's anecdotal evidence, right? But it's walk down the street, and that's what people are saying. Like you said, there's no cash, no money in their pocket.
Seriously?
Yes.
So in terms of the work you do, financial intermediation, moving money from those who have it to those who don't, how does this show? Is it that less money is coming in, or people are less prepared to borrow money from you? How does what you're saying manifest itself in the money business?
I tell you what, the demand for people to take loans, it is at an all-time high.
Demand for loans, all-time high. People are looking for money.
People are looking for money. They want to take loans. They want to do things. Guess where the problem is?
Supply?
There's no money to give them.
There's no money to give them?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm lending much less than I did before. And
people are looking for money, but you can't give them.
I can't give them.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Why can't you give them money?
I can't give them money simply because every other person is hoarding his money.
Oh.
Yes. Oh. Remember that what do? We take money from areas of surplus, and then I buy from them, and I go and sell it into areas of scarcity. Now, I'm not talking about the big commercial banks who are cutting deals worth millions of dollars with oil, this, that. I'm talking about what is on the ground. Savings and loans, rural banks, finance houses, microfinance, the people who lend to the real economy, to the watcher woman to buy a few more bags of rice or beans, to the lady who has got an event going this Christmas and needs to finance some purchase of some items to get paid. Nobody is lending to them because there's no money. I can't buy enough money. And I'm Delex.
So you buy money and resell it?
Yes.
Which kinds of people give you money?
People who are wealthy, who have... You see, remember, how does this economy work? Essentially, my role is to come to somebody like you, Bernard, who has excess cash, take the cash, turn around, and if you wish, if Toma doesn't have money, I give it to Toma. Then what happens? Toma spends the money, right? Somebody has to. Toma says he collects the money. He wants to do whatever. He wants to pay school fees. He wants to rent a house. He wants to do something. So he spends the money. Somebody spends the money, and somebody spends the money. But where's the source of the money that started the whole process?
The guy with the surplus money.
The guy with the surplus money. Now, if the guy with the surplus money is afraid and hoarding his money for any reason and doesn't want to give it to the people who will lend to the real economy, all that happens is that Toma doesn't have cash. If Toma doesn't have cash, it's as simple as the kebab boy doesn't have cash because you won't buy that extra stick of kebab.
I can back that up with the statistics.
Please do.
Good.
According to the latest Bank of Ghana banking sector survey, year on year up to August this year, deposits held by the banking sector grew by 12%. Now, that is the lowest deposit growth rate this decade.
People bringing them money.
That is the rate.
The lowest rate of
growth.
Deposit accumulation growth in a decade.
This decade.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Where are you getting that data from?
Bank of Ghana. Their
Is this the
banking
third
sector
quarter
survey.
banking survey?
Yes, data is dated September.
The September one.
Yes.
This is the lowest growth in deposits in 10 years.
Yes. Well, I've added that part. The Bank of Ghana
Yes,
said
but
that,
you
but
are able to
I
compare.
follow the figures. Yeah.
Let me show viewers some of the things in the economy. In the past 20 years, this economy is growing pretty well. We grew annually by 5.8% in 13 of the 22 years between 1991 and 2013. I mean, 2015, we had 15% growth. That's pretty high. 2016 growth was pretty low. Strong macro indicators, 7% GDP growth for this year. Inflation has come down the lowest in, I don't know.
How many, whatever.
Whatever years, yes. So why are people not having money? I mean, these fundamentals that I'm giving you seem pretty cool, Toma. What's going on?
The reason why is because, you see, you're achieving those fundamentals that you just spoken about by applying demand management. You squeeze money out of the system when you want to bring down inflation. So what you do is you make sure that people don't have money to demand for goods.
What do you mean?
You want to bring inflation down. What's the easiest way to do it? Make sure that nobody's going to ask to buy commodities. How can there can't be inflation if there's no demand? You know, inflation there's demand pull, there's cost push. Demand pull is a major factor in it. What they've done is to try to wipe out demand pull inflation.
So this inflation figure that's low that I'm showing is because there's no demand. People can't buy things.
Yes, the effective demand is low. They use that to both bring down inflation and also, just as importantly, to stabilize the cedi.
Okay.
If there's no money in the system, there's less money pursuing dollars. So they use that now to... So
there isn't that to sort of reduce
the
exchange rate.
statistics, the fundamentals you are talking about basically derive from a stable currency and relatively
So
low
are you
inflation.
saying that when you stabilize an economy, the unintended consequence is that people don't have money?
When you stabilize Ghana's type of economy, the problem Ghana has is this. Ghana is heavily import dependent, all right? And if you watch carefully, Bernard, watch the cycles in Ghana. Anytime you have a growth boom in Ghana, it is followed by economic instability. Because as the growth takes place and generates more liquidity in the system, that money now goes into imports. It now goes into, and remember, because basically our exports are basically commodities, basic commodities sold in international market. Now, when growth accelerates, it is not followed by a commensurate expansion in exports. Because exports are a different matter, basic commodities being sold on global markets. All right? So it is not followed by a commensurate increase in exports, but it's followed by a commensurate increase in imports.
Which then put pressure. Which is interesting because the highest growth, based on what you showed, was 15% 2015. What happened in 2016? 2016 was the year that things began to unravel. Then now, if you do the IMF report, 2016, things went off kilter. Partly because 2015 was very good. So then, 2017, you have to start all over again.
But
we're in 2019. It's 3 years.
So to restructure the economy, this is what happens.
So what you're saying is a structural issue?
It's a structural issue. It is a structural issue.
Wow.
Growth increases the demand for imports without increasing the supply of money from exports.
Okay.
All right? But now, fortunately, at least we're in a better position now than ever before. You know that Ghana right now is making merchandise trade surpluses.
Yes.
In part because, in fact, the biggest factor behind that has been the substitution of imported oil for electricity generation for gas. It's cheaper. If you check the stats, you'll find that thing has come down. It's helping us to get
a trade surplus.
Yeah, so we're at least now we are starting from we're in a better position to handle the unwanted side effects of faster economic growth than we have been in the past.
Wow. Interesting stuff. Okay, now let's talk about now. You've given us some nice macro issue. Every year, we make a lot of money. The next year, things come down. It's because of the structural economy. But this 2019 problem of lack of money, you said that if you look at the banking sector report, deposits in the financial sector grew by their lowest in a decade.
Yeah.
Now, let's guess. What could be the reason for this? Which means that since 2009, this year has been the lowest in terms of deposit accumulation in the banking sector. What is peculiar about this year?
Very simple. The financial sector cleanup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When people got frightened, remember, the financial sector cleanup resulted in fear and panic.
Yeah.
And people literally say, I would prefer to keep my money under my bed than go and give it to any financial institution.
Yeah.
And so the financial sector cleanup, the whole issue to do with men's code, there are a number of issues that came up that created fear and panic in the, in the eyes of the
banking public.
So what happens? People hoard their money. But guess what? When you hoard your money, there's no money to go around. Because it is when you spend money that people get a chance to get that money and do another thing with it. So when I go out and I hire somebody to paint my house, well, I buy paint. The person who made the paint and sells the paint gets some money. The painter gets some money. The boy who comes to scrape gets some money. So there's some money going around. When we are hoarding our money, what happens?
All of that doesn't come in.
Yes. And remember also that willy-nilly, the banking sector crisis meant that people lost money and they feel broke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the money has been, remember.
So you're saying that the financial sector cleanup has unintended consequences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number one, people are not sending money to the financial sector.
Yes.
Which is why this lowest deposit in a decade is happening.
Yeah.
Number two, people's monies have been locked up. So you don't have money with them.
Exactly. So there's not even money to spend. Think about it. In the last few weeks, we've had 52 companies who have been closed down by SEC.
Fund management companies.
Yes, fund management companies that have been closed down by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Sounds like, okay, some people were misbehaving, they've been closed down. But guess how much they were holding? 8 billion cedis. They were holding 8 billion cedis in investor funds. Where is that money?
Taken out of circulation.
We don't know.
Hey.
Yes.
But I thought they said if government is going to pay or something.
They didn't say government is going to pay. They said,
will pay a little.
First of all, remember that 52 million, they said, that, let me read my lips. It was illegal, mostly illegal transactions. And you were investing. Right? They were not supposed to promise you. They were fund managers. They were not banking. They were not finance houses. They were fund managers. They were doing shadow banking illegally. When they promised you a 20-something%, it was an illegal transaction. And there's a reason for that. When a financial sector company goes to Bank of Ghana to get a license, they say put down 400 million, put down 100 million, so that when you make losses, we'll use it to help socket. You know how much even recently, you know how much the fund managers put down? Until this year, they were putting down just 100,000.
Wow.
Yes.
And yet their exposure is 8 billion.
Thank you.
Collectively, of course.
Yes.
Wow.
8 billion.
So that 8 billion is out of the economy.
It's out. And it's not coming back.
I thought somebody
and the government says...
Wait. Sorry. How does it disappear? Is it that the people spent it wrongly, they mismanaged it or something? Because if the value of the assets of the 53 companies was 8 billion, it has to be somewhere.
A large part of that money has been locked up in financial intermediation companies like the banks that have failed, the microfinance and things.
Sorry. When you hear related party transactions, it means, what does it mean? Even in the fund managers, a fund manager has taken the money and given it to himself. When you hear that the largest fund manager in this country had, and this is SEC statement, it's not mine, says that 99.4% of all the money it received in the area of close to 3 billion or more was put in an unregulated financial institution, and the money cannot be found and the assets are not there. What did you think has happened?
So when we see related party, it is technical jargon for you've paid the money likely to yourself.
Yes. Let me put it in plainer words. I work for Dalex Finance. Dalex Finance takes your money. When it takes your money, what it's supposed to do is lend the money to him. When he pays back, I give you your interest, and so on and so forth. It's not as simple as that, but generally.
Basically, yeah.
So when you give me money, and I lend it to myself for various...
So you give it to your wife's company?
That's
related party.
Related party, or my own company. And so when you hear all these group of companies, don't get excited. Because what's happening is that somebody has taken money and put it into a related company.
But hold on, Toma. He says 8 billion has disappeared. I won't argue. But the budget, the finance minister said, from the time we started the financial sector reform, we've borrowed up to 20 billion to cater for the financial sector crisis. So I'm guessing that 20 billion we went to borrow has been pumped back into the economy. So there should be money.
The banks, basically, that is 12 billion. Remember that, first of all, before you even go further, remember that it's not actually money that has been pumped back. Basically, it is money that has been given to the banks to cushion them in case depositors come to withdraw money so that they can meet depositors.
Oh, okay.
This thing. In fact, a large part of it is actually effectively, it amounts to guarantees, not actual cash.
There's no cash.
It amounts to guarantees, not actual cash.
What do you money for the fund managers?
What do you mean by that?
If you check the figure, you'll find that only about half of that money will actually be monetized and given to the affected institutions.
But we borrowed the money. We went for a bond. So presumably they paid money to us. So just give it to the bank to cushion themselves, not necessarily lend it to people.
Of course.
So when you take, for example, consolidated
bank, yes,
CBG's balance sheet,
yes,
a lot of what they're doing is not necessarily lending to customers.
Very little of it. What has happened is that, or in the case of CBG, most of the money are actually being monetized, to be honest. But what basically happens is that the government now has, as you said, they borrowed the money. Good question. Where is it actually gone? Yeah. What's actually happened? They have not actually given the thing. The bonds are lying there with the Bank of Ghana, pending when the bank needs it.
Which is why,
to
if you look at their balance sheet, a lot of
withdrawals.
the money is in government long-term instruments.
Exactly.
And then credit to the private sector is quite small.
Yes.
So a lot of the money is lying.
So they know that they can draw it down if depositors come for their money. But
the money is not actually in circulation.
It's not actually in circulation.
Okay, let's still
continue.
But
there's a very big factor behind the liquidity crunch which we are forgetting about. You see, we're looking at private sector issues. Now, let's look at public sector issues.
Wait, he mentioned job losses in the financial sector cleanup as the second one. And these are all private sector stuff. But you're saying that there's also a public sector cost.
Very, very big. Look, government is the biggest spender in the country. But you're having a situation where half of government's tax revenues are going into debt servicing. Now let's look at half of it.
Of government tax revenue
goes into debt servicing. Yes. Now let's look at what happens to that money. Bernard. If you look at the stats, the data will tell you that about 60% of our public debt
67%
is owed to locals.
No,
I'm talking about
outside.
That's the final figure I was going to come to.
Yes.
And that is, you see, you will not see it automatically in the figures, because the figures will tell you that about 60% of our public debt is domestic, and about 40%, or slightly over 40%, is foreign. But remember that 1/3 of that 60%, which we call domestic debt, is actually held by foreigners, which means that the interest is repatriated.
So even though
that is how Joe has come up with the 67%.
So when they even pay them in cedis, they are looking to convert it to dollars to move it out.
Of course. So I'm sure that's how Joe has come up with the 67%. I'm sure he has done the math and has added on the domestic.
That issue where we talked about a CD issued bond that went into some institutions, and there was a whole scandal. People thought it was related to the finance minister.
Yes.
Of course, it was held outside. So when you pay that interest, where is it going? It's not going to stay.
So even though it was domestic,
now, Bernard, do the math. Now, what it now means is that 67%, assuming that no investor actually reinvests his interest, he takes his interest and just reinvests his capital. What it now means is that 67% of 50% of Ghana's tax revenues automatically are going straight out to the country.
Yes.
Putting pressure on the CD again, so the cycle begins,
and government
then affecting liquidity.
So it affects liquidity. Now remember too, I mean, we all know the structure of our private sector, how much is foreign owned. I've always been complaining about this. You notice that traditionally the CD tends to depreciate the most during second quarter of the year. Do you wonder why?
Why?
That is when foreign companies are repatriating their dividends. They are taking money out. So the amount of outflows is still. That is why, for example, we've been having a merchandise trade surplus every quarter, every 3-month period since the last quarter of 2016, when this government claims that they are the ones that created a merchandise surplus. That is not true. The merchandise trade surplus started in the last quarter of 2016 during the Mahama administration. But let's put that aside. Now, you need to wonder why we are getting these merchandise trade surpluses. We are getting, Ghana is one of the biggest recipients of inwards remittances.
Yes.
Okay.
Private remittances.
And yet we still end up having current account deficits. Our capital account, the only reason why it doesn't go into deficit every year is because of the Eurobond issues we do.
Wow.
So you need to wonder why. Why is it that we are selling more, we are earning more from sales of our goods than we are spending on things we are importing, which is a rare good thing for Ghana. But yet our current account is always in deficit, and our capital account is the only time it doesn't go into deficit is when we go and borrow some big money on the
so let's just
market.
You mentioned
those outflows,
the banking sector, financial sector issue. You've mentioned the fact that a lot of our money is used to pay debt
and dividends.
What about the contractor issue? Because last month, the finance minister said they had paid 2.2 billion cedis to contractors. In fact, if you follow some of the NPP people, they were saying this is the largest single payment in a year for contractors, right? So I think they first initially paid a 1.3, then they paid another 900. The whole thing became 2.2 billion. That's what they said. If you've paid that much to contractors in a year, and this is actually between August and November, should that not change this lack of money issue?
Let me explain that. Now, you will notice that this government, this is a slate of hand. You will notice that every time they talk about contractors, they're always referring to the legacy debts.
Okay.
What the arrears they inherited, which they are trying to pay off. Have they given you figures about the arrears that they have built up themselves? They are giving you figures on cash basis, not on commitment basis. In other words, they are not telling you what arrears they are building
up new contractors
since they came in. They are not telling us how much arrears have been building up. Now, that thing only becomes public when there's a change of government. We all know that.
Hey. So some of the new contractors who are getting contracts from 2017
to now
may not have been paid.
Exactly. And don't forget that the money they used to execute the contracts is being taken out of the system. A contractor
aren't they local contractors?
They are local contractors, but okay, now Joe has money at Delex.
Yes.
All right. Now I have a contract from government.
Yeah.
I now come and borrow money from Joe and use it to carry out the contract.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I have not been paid.
Good.
That is something being taken out of the system.
So when you are paid, the money goes back to him.
It goes back to him.
It will go back to which he can now use to lend to people. As you say, he doesn't have money to lend. A lot of financial institutions have their monies locked up with people who they have financed to carry out government contracts. These are new areas which government is not telling us about. They only tell about the ones they inherited.
Let me take a break. I want to ask you about the contractor issue and the debt issue as well. And then we'll also look at government taxes, because one of the issues that people are saying that we don't have money because there's too much taxes. This morning on radio, people are talking about the telcos and the cost of data and all these things. We'll try and guess that. But viewers, why don't you tell us as well what you think? I mean, I don't know if this is making sense to you. The Christmas, how is it going? Do you have money? Are the contractors paying? What's happening? Let's talk. Send us a WhatsApp comment on the number on the screen. This is The Point of View. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is The Point of View. Tonight we're looking at the apparently dryness in the pre-Christmas festivities. We're praying that things get better. I'm discussing this with a financial journalist and then a finance house deputy CEO, Joe Jackson and Toma Imihere. Gentlemen, thank you for coming back. So Joe, we're talking government paid contractors. Yet he's saying that it's not going to change things that much, even though they paid over 2 billion to contractors. You agree with him on the issue that because we spend a lot of our tax revenue paying debt and the debt is foreign, we shouldn't expect any growth even in tax accumulation to affect the liquidity?
Okay, let me take the contractor issue here.
Yeah.
Remember that these contractors borrowed heavily from financial institutions, right? And the debts were huge and were causing a lot of trouble. So what's happening is that when the money comes, it's not going to the contractor for him to spend or continue their job. The money is just going to the financial institution, and then it stays there for some time to stabilize things.
So my expectation that you pay a contractor, he goes to buy something, the multiply effect, there's money, it goes to you guys.
It goes to us.
And you guys wanted to balance your book, so you would keep it there for a while.
Or they invest in government treasuries.
Don't say
you invest in government treasuries.
Don't say us. Look at the same Bank of Ghana report. The banks are not lending. The bulk of the money, it just goes to government treasuries.
Exactly.
Why are they doing that?
Because it's useless.
Because the point is that why should I bother lending to SMEs when I don't think SMEs will pay? It is easier to buy government treasuries, right?
14%.
And make some decent money and sit.
So all the money being paid, if the contractor pays the financial institution, that money may not necessarily come back into circulation.
It doesn't.
No, you go to government treasury bills.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
No,
you see,
government has paid the money knowing that the money is coming back to them.
There are two issues at stake. One, people are not giving money to be used to lend. Two, money that is in the system is being shut down. We talked about that. Three, the government is maybe paying back contractors, but that money is just going to sit. So there's no money running around for you to put something.
That means the government has all the money. Based on explanation, the government must have a lot of money. If they've paid contractors have paid you, and you've gone to buy treasury bills.
Hello.
Treasury bill is you lending to government.
Hello.
So government has the money.
Hello.
So the government has money.
Hello. The government is being broke for a long time.
Government is only using to refinance his debt.
He's only using that to refinance his debt.
Now I give up. You say
the money government
pay contractor. Contractor will use the money to buy food. He just give the money to you.
Yes.
You go and buy treasury bill.
Yes.
That means you've lent the money back to government.
And
That's all.
Now government will now use it to pay its creditors.
So
who are its creditors? Isn't it contractors?
No, but remember, what's the government doing? Hold on, Bernard. Bernard, what's the government doing? The government it takes the money.
Yeah.
It ships out 60-something% out of the country. And it continuously needs to do that. You know, when we also forget that, for example, money that is shipped out for take or pay, the power, it's in the region of 150 million a month.
Wow.
So when we say the government is broke, it has multiple facets. How much are they using for single spine? Another 30%. And remember, we are not meeting our revenue targets. We're not meeting our revenue targets. That's key. And we'll talk about taxes.
But if government is keeping all the money, how does it expect to meet the revenue targets? Because if you are not lending to this guy who needs it to do his business, he's not making enough money to pay any tax. So you're going to have that 5 billion tax gap because you are giving the money to him and not giving to him.
The reason why we are also not meeting our... You see, it's a vicious cycle we're stuck in now.
Wow.
Yes. And the growth you are seeing comes from exporting oil. Right? That's the main growth. But when you export oil, the bulk of the money goes outside. It doesn't come in. The bulk of that money goes outside. So what you have is that when we don't collect enough taxes...
Going fast.
Let's be clear.
Bernard, when you buy recharge cards, how much of the money stays in Ghana? They're all foreign-owned companies, remember that.
You say we are not raising enough tax. What do you mean?
Listen, I love the graph you've put up. Look at it. 2018. The blue is for Ghana. The brown is for other African countries. So
on average.
On average.
And the blue is always lower than the brown.
Thank you. Yes. And now the blue has even dropped lower.
Getting worse.
In 2018, we collected only 13.1% of our GDP as tax.
Is that because the tax administrator is inefficient or people don't have money to pay tax?
The tax administrator, there are two sides to it. One is very inefficient. Why do we say so? We don't tax the rich in this country.
So there's already the tax mix.
It's the tax mix. Think about it. How do we raise money? We raise money by tweaking VAT.
Consumption
tax. You raise money by taxing when I talk. You raise money by taxing me when I do Facebook. You raise money by taxing me when I buy fuel. You raise money by taxing me, and it goes on and on. You know what that kind of tax does? As a percentage, let's be fair. Look at me. As a percentage, this stock tax is going on. But how much does it really hit my pocket? Versus how much does it hit the poor man in the street who's doing some small Facebooking? It is a bigger percentage of his income. Yes. The taxes we have in this country are the wrong kind of taxes.
Let me show. There's a graph I have called taxes in wrong proportions. I wanted to have a chart. If you guys can put it up.
Why we're not charging property tax?
So you're saying that if you look at income tax, property tax, consumption tax, we are skewed towards the consumption taxes,
which hit disproportionately people who are poorer and at the bottom of the pyramid.
So our tax mix worsens the liquidity.
It worsens. You're talking about Christmas. The taxes that have been kicked in the last few months have worsened your position because they have taken out a bigger chunk of your income. The VAT that we tweaked, the consumption tax, the data. And that's, you see, it hits you harder.
Because they say that Ghana's income taxes...
I wish you could put up that graph.
Not this one, the one before. Ghana's taxes, the one that shows taxes in proportions, taxes in wrong proportions. So basically, we collect lower income tax than other countries.
Exactly.
But we collect more consumer taxes.
Consumer taxes.
Yes. So when people spend, you tax that. But you don't tax their income.
And that is a cheap way of taxing. Because you know what happens? You don't have to worry, you just collect the money. But you don't tax the rich people.
Let's be honest here.
You don't collect property taxes.
Exactly. Why is it like that? It's because the people who are supposed to set out the tax framework will be hit the most by income taxes. I mean, let's call it spade here. So it's a matter of political will. The guys in charge are the people who will be affected most if we start insisting on collecting the income taxes we are supposed to collect.
I'll give you an Sorry, you're
saying that the people who are in the tax administration, the policy makers, it doesn't serve their interest for income taxes to go up. Neither does it serve their interest for property taxes to go up.
Why would a minister who has 6 houses support the enforcement of property taxes?
Because he wants to raise revenue so he can manage the economy better.
Yes, he will raise the revenue which will now be spread among 20-something million Ghanaians, but he's the one paying
let me give you an example of how
he is worse off.
This doesn't make sense.
Wow.
When you're going to register land, you use your PIN, right? But you just quote it for quoting sake. Nobody goes to say, have you paid taxes? When I'm going to register a company, I put in my PIN, right? My tax PIN, but it means nothing. What I'm saying is that when you register assets, it should be linked to the taxes you've paid. We don't do that. There's another problem. We collect that taxes that hit the poor more, and we allow the rich to escape. Because the tax collection system is in silos, right? So the port is not linked to GRA. You know what happens? I can bring in 10 containers a month, and yet when it comes to declare income taxes, declare only 2 containers a month, and I'll get away with it.
Wow. This is serious.
So people are feeling poor because the taxes
so
that have been imposed...
You are literally saying that apart from all the financial crisis thing, government itself taking the money and all that, like people are lending to government, one of the reasons people don't have money is that our tax system is regressive.
Yes.
Wow. You agree with that?
Yes.
Right, totally.
Hey.
Yes.
Totally.
This matter is serious. All right, let's go to the market.
And the regressive taxes hit poor people more.
And it has been so for a while.
It's been so for a while.
So all these things you are saying are structural with our economy. So this idea that we...
No, this one is not structural.
No, the idea that income tax is lower than the African average, but consumer tax is way above the African average.
Yes.
This is how Ghana's tax has been
since
Rawlings.
For a long time, yes.
That's structural.
Yes, that's structure, if you like.
That's what I'm trying to say.
But it is you feeling it worse this Christmas because in the last 6 months, a lot more consumer taxes have kicked in.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That when you had the mid-year budget review, you had your top tax, which is now kicked in. You had your data tax, which is now kicked in. You've had your fuel and other things. So you're actually feeling the pinch.
Communication service tax and sector levies.
Thank you.
But can I have permission to spoil?
So there you have it. So basically, the reason is if you use data, Facebook, YouTube, all of that is CST, and this week we've been discussing this on the telco side, and then of course the energy sector levies were increased in the last bit. Let's end on this. I want to go to the market and hear what market women are saying. Then I want you to then give me solutions. What kind of Christmas should we expect?
Exactly.
All night? Should we start praying? Should we go and beg Delex to stop lending to government and give us the money? What should we do?
I don't.
At the end of this year, there's no hope.
You don't buy T-bills tomorrow?
No, I don't buy T-bills.
You don't buy?
I don't buy T. I can't buy
T-bills. A lot
T-bills.
of your competitors do.
I want to give your viewers a heads up on how bad this Christmas is going to be and why.
You are going to do what?
I'm going to give your viewers a heads up how bad this Christmas is going to be and why it's going to be.
I refuse it in Jesus' name.
The figures are there. The figures are there.
How can I say Christmas will be bad?
It's going to be bad. Look, Bernard.
Yes.
See how it works. As of during the budget, the finance minister told us that they have now revised the fiscal deficit upwards from 4.5. At the beginning of the year, it was 4.2. Mid-year, they moved it to 4.5. At the budget, they said now it's coming at 4.7%. Okay, of revenue shortfalls. Now, it's up that at the end of September this year, we already have 4.7. All right. Now, to achieve that 4.7, government needs to cut its expenditure by a further 3.4 billion during the last quarter of the year. To achieve the 4.7.
Oh,
we
have to cut expenditure of 3.7 for the last quarter.
For the last quarter. You have to cut by 3.4 billion. This is outside the cuts that were announced during the mid-year review. This is a new set of cuts, just applying to the last 3 months of the year. And government is the biggest spender, 3.4 billion
budget deficit.
Just to maintain the 4.7%.
But what do you need that number for? What do you need that 4.7 number for?
Because you don't want to go to 5. Don't forget, you have capped your this now at 5.0.
Why have you capped it at 5? For what? Who is marking you? Who's your headmaster?
You have.
You don't have money and you are capping.
If your deficit goes beyond 5, you won't be able to borrow. If you can't borrow, you can't refinance your debt.
Do you know Japan's deficit? Do you know America's deficit?
Hold on. There's a big difference. I keep telling you guys.
America can borrow in its own currency. So
no, not even that. It's easy for you to say America owes so much. In fact, the debt is 106% of GDP.
Yes.
And Ghana's debt is only 57% of GDP.
So what's the big deal?
Big deal. America spends only 8% of its revenues to service that tax.
That debt.
And
we spend how much?
42% and counting.
Oh, it was 42. Now it was 42 as of 2013.
Now it's what?
Now, yes, as of 2013 it was 42%.
So now it's what?
Now it's very close to 50.
So don't tell me about.
No, he's saying that we have a deficit of 4.7. I don't even know why 4.7 and 5 was the difference. You're saying that because of that 4.7, government is going to cut expenditure by 3.7 billion cedis.
Yes.
In this last quarter.
3.4 billion.
So this Christmas is going to be tight.
That's what I'm saying. Now the thing is this.
Wow.
The thing is this. Basically what it means is that government can only spend if it is buying things on credit, which means arrears.
Oh Lord.
You can't buy on cash. If it's buying anything now, it's like, guys, want to buy from you, we'll pay you next year. When next year the deficit is rebooted back to zero for the beginning of the year.
So he will only buy things on
credit. He can only buy things
and when
on
he's
credit.
buying on credit, it means there's no cash coming into the system. That's what he's really saying.
But they've printed new cash. I'm being very simple, but they printed new money.
that one we have to
It's a different matter.
How much have you seen? How much have you got?
They said it will come out this week.
Amen.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out this week. You had a press conference. Let's just hit the market, and hear what some of the traders have been saying about the economy. Then we'll come back and look at some solutions. Whether the printing of new money is going to help us. We're talking economy. We'll read your comments too. So let's go to the streets.
Christmas is about 3 weeks away, and there are already signs of influx of people in the capital as congestion and vehicular traffic is gradually building up. Places like the Central Business District of Kantamanto, Kaneshi and Makola are already getting choked. With the growing numbers, traders are repositioning themselves to rake in more revenue as the season usually sees a peak in sales. But things appear to be taking a different turn this year.
Christmas. I no kuno. Da me fa kura first me fa afiniki. Aba mam na eni. Amba am kesh kabe. Government ni yo no. Government ni yo no le ba ani bi ayi mokula. E ani mami wo kopa. Government mo nta no. Ne ba. E ani mami wo fi dada. Wo enfi won lenche. Wo efi wo ka obaja no wo la ko che mo ba ke shi kabe. Sha so ile nutu mo wo na ska eni. Ogomete mo nta lẹ́yìn kula.
To wo wa bi aneka wo won ni kra he. O ba wo jila ke jele bi an wo ta si keke moko ba moko ya. No wo mayin enye lo wole ake wo iwe ba. E kwa bo ne ba fe won egbo wo tue. Ni nuchumo. Wo nuchumo ahi ani sika ba ma mi awon ni won na ejole. E ja ke wo kele ba. E wo fu ehin efi o ne ba kwa wo. Won pin eka kwa GSS pe ke secondary pe ekwa won wo mani wo ho ni won tuni wo shikafe wonana e ba ye bu awo
The narrative of these market women seem to contradict that of the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, who says he believes the MPP government has performed credibly well in its management of the economy. In July, Dr. Baumia said inflation recorded under the NDC was 15.4%, but the MPP managed the economy well to keep the inflation rate at 9.5%, which according to him is remarkable. Again, his remarks appear to be at variance with the average Ghanaian standard of living. As a result, some desperate women have sorted to selling on the streets and pavements in an attempt to get closer to the few customers with purchasing power.
We don't have any option. That's what they are saying. But we don't want to stay at home. We have to come and sell to take care of the children.
So that was now Adole Mofat's report. People are selling on the street because people are not buying. So they want to bring the thing to your face.
And hope.
this is serious. We'll take a short break. I need to process this. It's pretty grim stuff we're hearing. This is the point of view. We call this one kinky economics. We are not doing a fiscal rigidity and all those things. We are just telling you simple things about the economy. And I still can't get over this issue of government has paid 2 billion. Yet the money goes back to government. I still don't understand. But I will try and resolve it. This is the point of view. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Point of View. Let me read some of your comments. My guests are Toma Imihere, who is an economic or financial journalist, and Joe Jackson, who runs Dalex with his friend Ken Thompson. Good evening, Bernard. I also believe there's no money in the system due to high demand for foreign goods through imports of basic commodities, which affects our local market. This is Charles Dakora in Tamale. I have over 40K locked up in financial institutions. That is under liquidation. Government has promised to pay 20K, which I don't know when it will come, not to talk about the balance. Where do I get money? Prince Azuma from Asamani, Amangwa, Krotia, Ahimfie, Akwemufie, Eastern Region. He's identified himself. Derico Imadina says, good evening, Bernard. Let's forget about Christmas. There is an economic meltdown in the country. Let's discuss Christmas in the beginning of the new decade. Berima Kubaji, Jine. Ghana's economy is one of the driest across the globe. We are told of the figures and it appears we live in heaven. Yet to put your hands in your pocket and there's nothing. The little we have is going to pay more for fuel, electricity, water, data, etc. Abosoka and Forex Bureau are the best places to tell the kind of economy you have now. We borrow to lose it to corruption. God help Ghana. Good evening, Bernard. Please, I want to know what is happening to the rural banks. Are they going to be affected by this exercise? MBA from Kintampo. Bernard, good evening. Bless you. Please, these too many to return to continue the discussion. He says, I'm a science student, but I'm following the discussion very keenly. Top-notch submissions with interesting revelations. Isn't the government simply robbing Peter to pay Paul? I don't know. Good show, Bernard. I'm loving the show. Your panelists are giving us what we need to know, unlike the politicians that cook figures and tell us there's money in the country. Where are the fundamentals? Seriously, we are bleeding. Guys, let's talk about solutions now. You've depressed people enough. Joe first. What should the government do? Okay, wait. Can this Christmas be salvaged? Or this Christmas we should forget?
Oh, no, this Christmas is gone.
It's gone.
It's finished. It's over. Kaput.
No, but they printed new money.
But as the printing, you see, let's be clear.
It will replace old. It will take money out of circulation.
The printing of money itself does nothing.
Oh.
Bernard, if you have, listen, what does printing of money mean? It means that today I have 100 cedis in my pocket. I can carry it as one note, or I can carry it as 101 CD notes. But it doesn't change 100 cedis. Is it when I go to the market and I give 100 cedis, things that are sold for 120 will be sold to me for 100 cedis.
But who determines how much money they can print? Because there's a temptation when governments are broke, like Zimbabwe, to just print paper. And these days, money is even numbers on the screen.
Yes. No, let me tell you something.
Can't they jack up the numbers?
The truth of the matter is that this government has to be careful. Because if it prints money and creates inflation, and the CD's value drops, you know what will happen? The amount of money they have to repatriate to service their debt will also go up. So there's really no incentive to print extra money and create. So I know there are all sorts of conspiracy theories around the issue of printing money, and I don't believe it.
So you're saying that if I'm expecting that the printing of the new money will change the Christmas,
it won't change anything.
Bernard, they could as well, if they wanted to use that kind of system to solve the liquidity problem and make people happy, they could as well have printed the old money. They could have just printed more of the old money.
It won't change anything.
You understand?
So that's out.
That's out.
I disagree with the print of money, but not because it will change anything.
Mm-hmm. Good. So what should go? You said this Christmas is gone.
Oh, this Christmas is over. It's kaput. As my good friend Toma has told you, life is going to be hard.
It's going to get worse.
Oh, yeah.
But what about next year?
It won't change.
What about next year?
Well, the Afrobarometer tells us that everybody is optimistic.
Meaning?
The optimistic. Unfortunately, I'm not as optimistic as other people. But
okay.
I suppose I'm in the minority when the Afrobarometer didn't come and ask me, because I would have been absolutely.
So what is the
next year?
Yes,
what will happen next year? You see, because there's a time lag between cause and effect. Let me do what every government does. at least in this part of the world, just before an election. You print the money. That's what Joe has said is the dangerous thing to do. You print the money effectively, all right, to ease off liquidity, the liquidity problem. Now, as he has pointed out, it has terrible effect because if you have twice as much money pursuing the same amount of goods and just do the math, what it means is that the price of everything will double. Because it's the same goods and services available, but you have twice as much money pursuing it. So what will happen? The price will double. But you see, there's a time lag. If you time it correctly, if you time it, say 3 months to the election, you print the money, people get the money in their pocket, but the negative effects, like the increase in prices, inflation, will not come in until after the vote. You understand? Will not come in until after the vote. And that's what basically governments in this part of the world do. They will now time it. When it's just before election, they flood the economy with money. Prices start to rise. But before they rise very far, the votes have been cast. Of course, now you win the election.
So you mean that
from next year, 2021...
we could have some better economic fortunes before election if this is...
Very temporary.
If this is what the plan is. But whoever wins 2020 would inherit a high inflation figure.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
If this currency printing is not backed with value.
Yes.
That's the assumption.
That is it.
But I'm asking you what the solution is.
But that's what will happen.
But practically speaking, if Ken calls you to his office and says, Toma, I listened to you on Bernard's show. You are very smart. What should I do between now and next year so that 2020 will be better for Ghanaians? What would you say to him? Think about it.
I'll tell you what I'll say to him.
There's no quick fix.
There's no quick fix. There's nothing he can do.
No, there's one fix that he can apply.
What can he do?
Go get the rich to pay more tax.
Get the rich to pay more taxes.
Yes. You see, the problem you have is that you are not collecting enough taxes. When you collect more taxes, then gives you a gap and a little bit of breathing space and room. And also, it doesn't even make sense to me the way they are collecting the taxes, because you're making the people who are going to vote for you, they are feeling poorer. Go after the rich.
Yeah.
Do we know who the rich people in Ghana are?
You go after anybody who has an asset.
Houses.
Yeah.
Houses. You register a house, pay tax. You register a car, pay tax. You register a company, pay tax. You collect rent, pay tax.
Perfect.
That's what we've got to do.
Check this thing out.
Isn't that what they do in the US?
Check this thing out there. We are achieving relatively high growth rates, but we're having liquidity problems. Now, how do we measure the growth rate? It's by the transactions going on. Transactions require both a buyer and a seller, which means that these higher growth rates we're experiencing means that there is more economic activity going on, but we are not enjoying it. So what it's telling us is that the economic activity is going on, but it's within just a narrower segment.
And they are the people who are benefiting.
Those are the rich people we are talking about. The ones.
But does he have the system to find them?
Oh,
of course,
there are systems to find them. And
the question is, does he have the political will?
Isn't there a land title registry?
The political,
isn't there a vehicle register?
The political cost of taxing the rich in a country like Ghana versus taxing the poor, which is worse. Because in the US, they discuss that a lot.
Yes, but there are more poor people in Ghana than rich people.
So in terms of votes, it's better off taxing rich people and letting the money go to the poor.
And let me tell you one bad thing that is being mooted that I pray won't happen.
That's what?
The poor people at the bottom of the pyramid, use mobile money.
They want to tax mobile money.
That thing is so wrong.
They shouldn't try it.
They don't even go there.
No, they want to
if you
tax,
think people are complaining now,
the fees that the telecom companies are
but
charging.
It will be passed on.
But it's wrong.
It will be passed on.
So they should tax property taxes.
It is wrong. It is just
luxury
wrong.
cars, things that rich people get.
You see, it's not just taxing any time an asset is going to be registered. That is a signal for you to say, this asset, where is the matching tax? Go and pay it. It's very simple.
That's why the TIN number thing is crucial.
Yes, but the TIN numbers are there, but nobody is applying them.
How can you say that you cannot identify who's to pay property tax? Come on, when we have a
the house is not there.
Not registered. And the property is not registered.
And the houses are they hiding? When you go to
it's okay. We have to end it. I'll bring you back in first quarter 2020 to see whether some of these predictions will come to pass. Toma, Imihere, thank you. Really great talking to you.
Pleasure.
Joe Jackson, deputy. I call you deputy MD of Avle because after Ken Thompson, you are the big man there. I hope you've learned something. It means that we have to pray more and tighten our belts. But God is still good. This is Point of View. My name is Bernard Avle. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on Citi TV's YouTube channel. Subscribe for more videos on The Point of View. My name is Bernard Avle. Thank you.
The Point of View with Bernard Avle, Monday and Wednesday nights, only on Citi TV.